Hello, how are we doing? Everyone having a good Fringe? Oh, that's good to hear. I've actually been in quite a bad friend of mine recently because I got dumped. So, thank you. It's so nice to have a sympathetic audience. My friends won't let me talk about it anymore because it happened over 3 years ago now. But in all fairness, my life has been pretty empty since. And she's also still listed as one of my emergency contacts. So, I mean, I'm not saying I wanted to get that phone call, but if I were to slip into a coma, let's just say I wouldn't want it to go to waste. I think a lot of my problems aren't really my fault. I blame my father, because he gave me some very strange advice when I was a child. I remember he sat me down and he said, son, you haven't got a lot going for you. You're kind of gay. But look, there is something you can do. When you first meet a girl, try and ascertain as subtly as possible if her parents are divorced. Because if her parents are divorced, she's probably got low self-esteem and she'll be much more likely to want to have sex with you. I mean, what was I supposed to do with this advice as a teenager? Just go out clubbing one night? So, will you be seeing both your parents over the school holidays? I have no idea how she got in, by the way, I'm assuming fake ID. So my worry is that this early experience has coloured a lot of my life, and it's made it difficult for me to have real relationships, meaningful relationships with people, and then I'm always going to resort to manipulative tactics. I'm essentially why I've become a sociopath. Case in point, my first love was actually unrequited. In fact, I vividly remember watching her get off with someone right in front of me, and I started crying. And my friends came up to me and said, James, mate, what's going on? Why so upset? I thought, oh God, I can't tell them the truth, it's too embarrassing. So I just said, I've just been going through a hard time, things have been kind of difficult recently. My grandma died. And it worked a treat, they loved it. I enjoyed their words of sympathy and comfort, and I went home and I didn't think anything of it. But my friends, understandably, were quite concerned. And so they rang me at home to check to see how I was getting on. That day, I wasn't in, but my grandma was. So I returned to school to find 5-6 girls waiting for me in my room, intervention, if you will, and they sat me down and they said, James, there's something you should know. We called you at home and your grandma answered the phone. Now, at any point in a lie, you can go in one of two directions. You can either confess, beg for forgiveness, or stay the course. And I think I'm confident in saying I did what every other person in this room would have done. I accused them of contacting my dead grandma from the grave, and I had them all burned as witches. No, I didn't, of course not. No, they never spoke to me again. But I did learn a very important lesson that day, which was never to kill off a living family member unless you're actually prepared to go through with it. So when I arrived at university, I'd lost a lot of my female friends, and my address book on my phone was looking kind of sad. In fact, the only two numbers in there were mine and my mum's. Mine was obviously in there so I could remember it, and my mum's was obviously in there so I could remember it. And anyway, it got really embarrassing having hundreds of missed calls from my mum and no one else. So I came up with the genius idea of changing my mum's name in my phone to Juliet Sex. The idea being that people would see this and go, hey, that James guy, he's kind of cool. He saves women in his phone according to their function. But looking back on it, the only thing they could have possibly thought was that I was some sort of pimp. And it didn't help every time I called Juliet, I was usually asking for more money. So, but phones are interesting. I use phones a lot to get out of awkward situations. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the pretend phone call. When you pretend to have a conversation on your phone and you sort of drop in interesting facts about yourself so you look interesting to people around you. I tend to do this a lot on trains, almost always when I'm sat opposite a beautiful woman who I'm too nervous to talk to. The hope being that she'll tap me on the shoulder and say, oh, I'm so sorry to bother you, but I couldn't help overhearing your conversation, and you sound like a really cool, interesting guy. Do you want to go for a coffee and discuss some sort of potential relationship? It hasn't happened yet, but it's only a matter of time. To give you some idea of how this conversation might go, this is one that I did recently on the train. So, yeah, hi Tony, did you manage to get those numbers over to Frankfurt on time? Yeah, of great, top notch, top notch. Tonight, I'll probably just stay and watch the Great British Bake Off. You know how I love to bake for women. Test results, yeah, got them through this morning. Yeah, well, no, all good. Very high sperm counts, yeah, I'm very, very fertile. So I was doing this, but I looked at the woman sitting opposite me, and instead of looking impressed, which, you know, as you'd expect, if anything, she looked slightly confused and a little bit pissed off. And I couldn't work out why. I mean, it's a foolproof routine. That was until I happened to glance out the window. Actually, Tony, mate, I'm going to have to get off the phone. Yeah, I'm on the district line and I've been deep underground for at least 5 stops. Yeah, no, this phone call is actually technically impossible. Yeah, I know, it's amazing. I've still got you. No, he's gone. So you've got to be careful if using that one. Just a little tip. But anyway, as I said, I was feeling down about my girlfriend, and you know, I was desperate to get her back. And I was on Facebook, and I saw this trending article entitled "How to Get Your Girlfriend Back When She's Moved On." And I thought, this is perfect, this is brilliant. And I read it, and it was all the usual stuff, you know, buy her flowers, put distance between you, kidnap a family. So it was nothing I hadn't already tried. So I read the article, thought nothing of it, went to bed, woke up the next morning and I had all these messages from my friends saying, James, it's all over Facebook. You've just read an article entitled, "How to Get Your Ex-Girlfriend Back When She's Moved On." Oh, shit. And she saw it. She saw that I read this, and but it was finally end, because I called her up and I said, look, I know you've seen I read that article, and you know, I'm sorry, it's just that we're going through a bit of a hard time recently, you know, things have been difficult. My grandma died. And may she rest in peace. Thank you so much. I've been James Mitchell. You've been a lovely audience.